371 Homewood, Alabama 35259.
The Yaffee Program on WVNN.
You know, it still amazes me sometimes that you can get some news, and depending on what side of the aisle you're on or where you are in the press, if you're in the propaganda press or maybe alternative media, whatever, how you can come up with two completely different conclusions about the same thing. It really does amaze me still. It shouldn't. I shouldn't be surprised. But, really, if you have Trump derangement syndrome, you're out there saying taco. Trump always chickens out. Which I don't know how anyone could say that. He obviously doesn't always chicken out. He got Maduro. Maybe you could say it's disco. Donald sometimes chickens out. But that you get some of that. But then if you're on the other side of this, you're saying this is complete victory for Trump. And I think it's looking that way. On the surface, this is a very positive development, the ceasefire in Iran. But let's be honest here. We're in wait and see mode. We got 2 weeks to wait and see what happens. And it's very possible that Iran not already, but will break this deal and we're back to where we were and we're going to have to bomb them again. Now, that wouldn't really be Trump's fault. That would be Iran's fault. But I'm just saying, as your voice of reason, I will be honest with you today. This is good news, but I can only remain cautiously optimistic again because we're in wait and see mode. It's very possible that as soon as today, all of this comes crashing down, depending on what Iran does with the Strait of Hormuz and everything else. So I'll give you the details on that. Really is an amazing story. It's historic, really. And I want to get your take as well. I mean, where are you on this? You can weigh in on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Is this a taco? Is this Trump always chickens out? Or is this a victory? Somewhere in between? What do you think? And what do you think actually happens next? You are listening to the Yaffee Program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. Here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Outside of the latest news out of Iran, we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. We'll get to those Alabama bullet points, the top stories from around the state. The session is almost over, but some big items making it through at the last minute. So we'll discuss that. At the bottom of the hour, we'll speak with Congressman Barry Moore, who is running for the U.S. Senate. As you know, I'll ask him about Iran. We also have to ask about Trump's executive order on NIL and Trump's budget. I wanted to get in that. I think Trump has made a lot of good proposals in his budget, which we'll talk about that later. Also, Caroline Dobson is going to join me later on in the show. She is running for Secretary of State. I think she is going to be Alabama's next Secretary of State. So we'll talk to her about everything going on there. And Walker is producing today. Once again, she's going to do What's Trending later on. Walker, how are you today?
My allergies aren't as bad today, so I think we're doing good.
I feel you. I just, that literally is like, it doesn't sound positive, but if it's not as bad as usual, that's a positive because it's been horrendous.
Exactly.
At least for me. So I totally understand that. By the way, Walker, do you have the audio ready?
I do.
We'll get to some of that in a moment and get your reaction. Let me just read here what Trump posted yesterday, and then we'll get into the latest details today when it comes to Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, giving an update, Joint Chiefs of Staff as well. Vice President J.D. Vance actually talking more about it. He's over in Europe, but he gave an update on this. But President Trump said this, just as a reminder. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this, but let me read it. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Azim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran, and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. So we have received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Now, just on a side note for me here, there are a lot of things in that 10-point proposal that there is just no way Trump's going to agree to. So where the workable basis is, I guess the workable basis is that they'll open up the strait. I mean, that seems to be it. He continues on. He says, almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. He said, on behalf of the United States of America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to our resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There you go. Look, I have said for weeks now, if you listen to this show on a regular basis, you know I've said this. I was extremely skeptical that we could get a real lasting deal with the crazy regime in Iran. And I understood that Trump was trying to put out a perception that he could be crazier than them. It was done on purpose. You got to out crazy the crazies. So the threats were to get them to the table. But I was always skeptical maybe it could happen. But I was always willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt because I wasn't sure. In fact, I was very skeptical that we could ever get a deal with Hamas to return all the hostages in that war in Gaza. Trump got that deal done. So after that, I have to be willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt here and realize and say that, yeah, Trump can get this done. So the latest that we have today on it is what I was talking about. Pete Hegseth weighing in. He is Secretary of War. Also, we have this from the Wall Street Journal stock market. The Dow jumps more than 1,000 points after the U.S.-Iran walked back from the brink. It says oil prices plunged, stocks rallied, and government bond yields sank after President Trump said he agreed to a ceasefire with Iran if the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately. Now, the immediate question for the financial world now is whether tankers can start transitioning the Persian Gulf and deliver much-needed supplies to increasingly strained global energy markets. Now, few ships have attempted the crossing so far, as the terms of the safe passage remain unclear. Now, it does say here jet fuel supply could take months, not weeks, to recover. So that's kind of a problem. I always thought, you talk about high gas prices, and you talk about Democrats out there complaining about high gas prices, and it's understandable. I mean, talk about a political win for them. But I always said they didn't have credibility because what they wanted to do would have had permanent high gas prices. Their Green New Deal stuff would have been permanent high gas prices. What this war does is temporary high gas prices. Not permanent, just temporary high gas prices. So it was always kind of understood that if this war could wrap up, oil prices, gas prices would go back down for the most part because we're so oil and energy dominant in this country right now. So Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War and the Joint Chiefs of Staff as well, gave a press conference this morning on the latest when it comes to the ceasefire deal. Go ahead if you can. Walker, play a Pete Hegseth cut 1 for me.
No other president has shown the courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part.
All right, so there you go. For now, being the key word there. And as I said, the War Department, the U.S. military, they've done great. Probably better than expected. So if there is ever an issue here, has nothing to do, like if there's an issue getting this war completed, it doesn't have to do with the job, the capability of the U.S. military. It would be the will of the American people, politicians getting in the way. Go ahead and play General Kane, that cut for me. Dan Kane, he is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Walker, play that cut for me.
Since the beginning of major combat operations, the United States Joint Force has struck more than 13,000 targets, including in that 13,000 more than 4,000 dynamic targets that popped up on the battlefield and were immediately addressed. We welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the Joint Force remains ready, if ordered or called upon, to resume combat operations.
Yeah, and they're not leaving the area. That's something else that's been reported as well. Then you got Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been kind of quiet on a lot of this. I think it's because he's not really for this. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that. He also doesn't want to accidentally say something that makes Trump mad for obvious reasons. But he is in Budapest today. He was given a press conference earlier. Play the J.D. Vance cut for me, Walker.
The Iranians have agreed to open up the straits. The United States has agreed to stop attacking. And that, not just the United States, but also our allies, have agreed to stop attacking. Some of the people have responded favorably and have said the right things. And then you have some people on social media within their system who are basically lying about what we've accomplished militarily. What the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. As the president told me last night, the Iranians are better negotiators than they are fighters. I'm sure they don't like to hear that, but it's true. If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. What the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night.
So on the surface, this seems like really good news for the world, for gas prices, for Trump, for the U.S., for the Iranian people, frankly. But wait and see. We got 2 weeks here. We have to see what a final deal looks like. We have to see if Iran is actually willing to keep it. So a little bit of a cautious optimism. And just a little bit of tension out there. Tell me what you think. Are you optimistic about this yourself? We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Got the Alabama bullet points coming up next year on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. You can also listen online, WVNN.com or the iHeartRadio app or any of your smart devices. This is Huntsville's Smart Talk Radio. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Senate candidate Barry Moore will join the show. Later on, Caroline Dobson, who's running for Secretary of State in Alabama. She's going to join me. Right now, let's get to more Alabama news. We have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. They got their big Ruger Days sale going on right now. Check it out. I'll tell you more about it. Number 4 today, Congressman Barry Moore defends crypto groups backing his Senate campaign. Says, I don't want the government controlling our finances. So U.S. Representative Barry Moore is running for the Senate. Joining me in the next segment, defends cryptocurrency industry support for his 2026 U.S. Senate campaign, stating he does not want the government controlling Americans' finances. Now, Moore, who is challenging for Senator Tuberville's seat against Steve Marshall and Jared Hudson, he pushed back against critics who questioned the influence of crypto PACs and donors. He emphasized his commitment to limited government and individual financial freedom, arguing that cryptocurrency represents innovation and privacy that should not be overly regulated by federal authorities. All right, number Number 3 today, Mo Brooks celebrates that Americans for Prosperity endorsed against him. They endorsed his opponent for a state House race. They endorsed James Lomax. Now, he says it reminds voters they opposed Trump in 2024. So U.S. Representative Mo Brooks responded to Americans for Prosperity, Alabama's endorsement of his opponent, State Representative James Lomax, in the Republican primary for Alabama House District 20 by celebrating the group's opposition. Now, Brooks highlighted that AFP did not endorse Trump in 2024, instead backing Nikki Haley and spending $31 to $32 million against Trump while pushing open borders and cheap foreign labor policies. Now, he criticized Lomax for supporting House Bill 210, which would allow certain illegal immigrants to attend state colleges, and accused him of accepting over $160,000 from special interests in exchange for weak immigration stances. Number 2 today, a major change to Alabama's sex education has been passed by state lawmakers, and something I want to talk a little bit more about later on in the show. So Alabama lawmakers have passed a major overhaul to the state's sex education curriculum, requiring public schools to emphasize abstinence as the expected standard for unmarried students and limiting discussions of contraception and other topics. Now, the bill, which updates decades-old guidelines, was approved by both chambers of the Alabama legislature and now heads to the governor's desk. Now, supporters argued it promotes responsible behavior and parental values, while critics warned it could leave students less informed about sexual health and increase risks of teen pregnancy. Now, the change reflects ongoing debates over what constitutes appropriate sex education in Alabama schools. Also, parental rights. They're saying, I guess, are going to be a lot more teen pregnancies. I'm not sure I buy that. And number 1 today, Alabama lawmakers finalized a $12.4 billion education budget package. So they did this yesterday, which includes a $10.5 billion fiscal year 27 education trust fund budget, a $420 million supplemental appropriation for the current fiscal year, and a $1 billion allocation to the Education Advancement and Technology Fund. Now, the package provides $86.25 million for the CHOOSE Act. Those are education savings accounts, the school choice, which is good, and a separate $100 million for future ESA awards. Now, it also includes a 2% pay raise for educators and a conditional $32.9 million one-time bonus for retired educators. It also adjusts funding weights under the RAISE Act to increase support for students in poverty, special education, and gifted programs while adding one-time spending on K-12 and higher education, school safety, technology, and a new $65 million performance-based college funding fund. They call it the CHEER Fund. And the House approved the Senate's changes to complete the budget. So it's always one of the big items that they have to work on during the session, and it seems like they're closer to getting that done. By the way, the Bullet Points brought to you by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. And right now, celebrating Larry's legacy in the firearm industry, Larry's Pistol and Pawn and Ruger offering you an amazing exclusive deal. But you got to go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn today. The Ruger Days going on right now. So if you're looking for a great Ruger firearm or maybe some other firearms as well, they have it for great prices, great sales prices right now at Larry's Pistol and Pawn. So go to the Madison location. It's off Greenbrier Exit 3 by the big rusty water tower. Factory representatives from Ruger are going to be there on Friday and Saturday. This coming Friday and Saturday. So check it out, Larry's Pistol and Pawn. See more information at pistolandpawn.com. Tell them Yaffee sent you.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
The NFL Draft, presented by Bud Light, is coming to Pittsburgh, and it's your chance to witness the future of the game for free from April 23rd to April 25th. Feel the energy of the NFL Draft. See the Vince Lombardi Trophy and Super Bowl rings. Meet NFL players and legends. Enjoy interactive games and live music performances, and be there as the future of the NFL takes center stage. The NFL Draft starts April 23rd. Register for free entry at NFL.com/draft access today.
Action. Next roll with Vernon Davis.
I'm your host, Vernon Davis. Okay, y'all, thank you. That's enough.
Today, we have Dietrich Wise.
Through my example, on the field, off the field, during game day, in practice, that was one way that I led, because then it led to success.
Next Roll isn't about what's next. It's about why they do it.
My man, Bobby Bones.
Like, I've had a lot of stuff happen, bad and good. And so I don't have any fear of mixing it up.
That's powerful, man.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. You can hear your voice of reason right here, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m., but also on social media. So like the Yaffee Facebook page, follow me on X at Yaffee, Instagram as well at Yaffee Live. So Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, says that U.S. forces are not going anywhere to ensure Iranian compliance. He also talked about that Iran was obsessed with trying to hit an aircraft carrier and never got even close to it. So we got to talk about this ceasefire deal right now with Congressman Barry Moore. He is also a candidate for the U.S. Senate, has been endorsed by President Trump. Congressman, how are you today?
Hey, I am good, Yaffee. How are you doing this morning?
Doing good. On the surface, it seems like this ceasefire is good news, but you know, we have to only be cautiously optimistic because kind of wait and see. We'll have to kind of see what the Iranians do, correct?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to like Secretary Hegseth said, you stay put. You make sure they honor the agreements, and hopefully the ceasefire can move forward. And, I think that's wise on the president and his team's part to make sure that, in fact, these folks go along with the agreement and the ceasefire can hold, and hopefully we'll see peace in the region in the near future.
Yeah, I hope you're right on that. What do you think? Do you trust the Iranians here? Do you think the Strait of Hormuz will be open outside of that? What are your thoughts in just general on what Trump said?
I think that the people we're dealing with, obviously, they trade in the commodities of death and destruction. And so very often that's the language you have to speak to them to get them to the table. Like you remember under Jimmy Carter, they held American hostages for 444 days. And it was when President Reagan came in that they only then did they release hostages, because there's a peace through strength process that they understand. And look, we've taken out, 90% of the ballistic missiles, 90% of the drone attacks are down, and we struck 11,000 targets. And so you send a message to these folks, and not only that, their proxies are not effective. I mean, we've seen very little fight from the proxies. The Hamas, the Hezbollah, the terror that they have sponsored around the globe is now they're being cut off at the source. And so, I think it's a process where they understand only strength. They do not deal with negotiations. I mean, Barack Obama gave them $1.6 billion in U.S. cash and pallets. Y'all remember that. And then we were going to allow them under Barack Obama to monitor their own uranium enrichment programs, which that was like the fox guard in the hen house. And then President Biden, when he lifted those sanctions, I gave him $6 more billion to proliferate this uranium enrichment and this ballistic missile program that they were trying to develop, so we couldn't get to their weapon systems. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a peace through strength process, and they only understand force. And so I think what President Trump has done has sent a strong message: you come to the table or we'll continue. And so hopefully this thing will work out for us. And I've always been confident in President Trump's foreign policy. I don't know that he's ever been wrong. And so I trust what he's doing. We'll have to trust him as commander-in-chief, but I think he is making great strides in things that many presidents haven't done. We've talked about for 47 years, but nobody really had the courage to go in and do what's being done.
Speaking with Congressman Barry Moore, candidate for the U.S. Senate, Iran obviously dominating the headlines, but there is a lot going on, including the fact that Department of Homeland Security is still not funded, correct? I mean, we're still in this shutdown. Is this ever going to end here?
Yeah, I think we're in a position now. I may have mentioned this on your show. We have 11 of the 12 approach bills through regular order out of Congress through the House and Senate. When the Somalian fraud in Minnesota was exposed, the Democrats threw a temper tantrum and wanted to just shut down the Border Patrol and ICE, and so they tried to carve that out. So we were not willing to take that deal. So we're looking now at a reconciliation process, and I think we can get some of the Save America Act as well as funding for CBP and ICE. I think that needs to be the first step in the process before we pass the remaining approach on DHS, just to make sure that the parliamentarian in the Senate doesn't say, oh, no, you're not going to be able to do this through reconciliation. We need to make sure that we fund the border and that we don't allow these borders to be opened back up. That is the American people's wish. That is what they sent President Trump to do. And so the negotiations are ongoing, and I feel confident that we'll be able to put a deal together. And hopefully we can. I just can't believe that the Democrats seriously want to just open the American borders again and allow what has continued under the Biden administration to continue under the Trump administration. We simply will not allow that to happen.
So it's kind of interesting what you said there. So the deal that was in the works was that we would fund the rest of Department of Homeland Security and then later on pass ICE and CBP through reconciliation. But it sounds like what you're calling for is kind of the opposite. You do the reconciliation package first to make sure it actually goes through, and then you fund the rest of DHS. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yes, because we don't want to carve out ICE and CBP and go through an appropriations process where that is not in fact funded and say, well, we'll get it in reconciliation. Now, many of us conservatives think that we need to do the reconciliation first so that the Senate parliamentarian doesn't say this doesn't pass the Byrd rule, and then we would lose the funding that we need through reconciliation for DHS as far as CBP and ICE. And so I think that's the process we need to go through. Many of us have said that to the speaker, and that's kind of what we feel we need to do.
Yeah, because I've talked to some people, and they're very skeptical that the parliamentarian, because of the history of the person who's in there, that it can be done through reconciliation. But that's why you want it done first. But are you optimistic that they'll agree to put that in reconciliation?
Yeah, I think it matters on how the language goes into reconciliation, and certainly we're looking at that to make sure that we can approach it so we don't have to deal with a 60-vote filibuster. We could simply do it with simple majority in the Senate. And if that's the case, we get that done, and then we finish up DHS, and for the first time in 30 years, we'll have all 12 approach bills through regular order through Congress.
Speaking with Congressman Barry Moore, outside of that, I saw that President Trump put forward his budget proposal. It's actually pretty important, I think, because it adds a lot of extra funding for the military. It cuts discretionary funding, cuts some programs, goes after fraud. To me, I understand that budgets by the president don't really pass. It's all done by Congress, but it's kind of a list of priorities, a blueprint. And it seems like Trump really wants to make it a priority to refocus the federal government on like national defense, what it needs to be doing. But what did you think overall about the budget?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that the president, he wants to make sure we fund defense and infrastructure and make sure we eliminate fraud. And those of us who are conservative, and I say this all the time as one of the more conservative members in Congress, there are certain things that conservatives believe in, infrastructure and defense, and funding the necessary things to grow the economy and to make sure we keep the American people safe. At the same time, none of us want to see the fraud continue. And so we did away with USAID. We cut $1.5 trillion in the big, beautiful bill in spending. But at the same time, there is still a ton of fraud out there. And we obviously, Nick Shirley with his camera has revealed so much of what we felt like was going on in many of these blue states. And so I think it's important that we get a handle on fraud, but at the same time, use taxpayer money in ways that there's no government program like a job. So investing in infrastructure to grow the economy in the U.S., allowing offshore investment, those sort of things that will have high-paying jobs in this country and allow us to lead the way on many of the technologies, many of the things that we want to do as a nation, get back to the simple things that make sense, and that's spending money wisely, investing in infrastructure, growing the economy, and cutting away the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Speaking with Congressman Barry Moore, I did want to ask you about something you said recently. I guess you're being attacked for getting some fundraising from some cryptocurrency companies, but you take it as a badge of honor. You seem to be fully supportive of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's because of my conservative stance on that. We don't want a CBDC. We don't want a central bank digital currency, and we want to protect the technology to be used for free trade and not allow that President Trump's family was debanked after the 2020 election by the big corporate banks. And so they went to blockchain crypto to transact business. And so they can target the Trumps, they can target any Americans. And we don't want some sort of social credit score that the government can control. And so the folks that are in the crypto world understand that and understand that my conservative stance is to keep government out of our business. And so glad to have their support. I think it just shows again that I'm for limited government and free trade, and I don't want the government in our lives any more than they need to be.
So, do you think anything outside of that, anything going to be passed in Congress anytime soon? Are you working on any legislation on that?
Yeah, we're still we're looking at ways that we can restrict the CBDC. We don't want a central bank currency. And like I said, we want those transactions. We want to bring that industry onshore to the U.S. because we don't want China. We don't want other countries leading the way in blockchain. We want offshore investment in this nation and make sure that we have a say. And we don't want some outside entities, especially of government derived powers, to control that process. And so, yeah, I think it's again, it goes back to my conservative roots. They like conservatives in this space, and I'm one of the guys that's been able to stand for that and to protect that and to fight against the central bank currency that I don't think we need.
Final question for you. I did want to ask you about the NIL executive order. I know you've been big on that. You've supported Tuberville's efforts on that. President Trump said that he borrowed a lot of the name, image, likeness stuff in his executive order from Tuberville's bill. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We're all, in the South, we're big college fans. We love sports. And, I think it was indicative when Nick Saban left. He said, it got to the point that the players weren't really coming for the traditions. They weren't coming for the camaraderie. They weren't coming for an education. It was all about how much money. And then we run into problems where these kids are they're not getting education. They're staying in college 2 or 3 years past, not even going to class and playing sports. And so we want to try to make sure we take it back to a process. And the coach has been in this for a long time. He understands how it works. And so we need to make sure we, again, put guardrails on it, limit the number of transfers, make sure that these kids are coming, getting a college education, and we don't have athletes playing 2 or 3 years and not going to class. We want to get it back. And, it worries me for the fan base because, I talk to a lot of people that are SEC college football fans, basketball fans, and, they've kind of lost they don't support the athletes and the programs as much because they don't feel like the athletes really love the schools. And so we're just trying to get it back to some semblance of normal. And I think these just transfers every year, nobody being loyal to a team, demanding more money, and not really being there for the university and for the education. I think it's important that we do that. And, I know the president is close to Coach, and he told Coach and mentioned to him a couple times, hey, sir, you can do this through executive order. And so hopefully that'll restore some of the normalcy within the college athletics programs. And I think it's good for sports. It's good for college football. It's good for it's good for college sports in general. It's good for the fans. I think it'll ultimately be good for the players.
Congressman Barry Moore, one of the candidates for the U.S. Senate. You can see his new ad where he is a garbage man throwing out the DC trash. I liked the ad was pretty good. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Good to be on with you, Yaffee.
All right, there you go. By the way, if you want to weigh in on anything, you can tell me who you're voting for, by the way. In this U.S. Senate race, you can. We have our text line, the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. It's brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. All right, we'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. In a sane world, in a world of common sense, President Trump's budget proposal would just be accepted. It would be a no-brainer. There's a lot of consternation today because he has proposed $1.5 trillion for the military. And usually the response is, well, we already spend more than most other countries by far. We don't need a bigger military. But historically speaking, we are spending, as a percentage of our GDP, much less than we should be, especially when you think about the threats from China, Russia, places like Iran, North Korea. Our military needs to be updated where we have a faster supply chain to resupply missiles. We need to counter drones, everything else. It should be a no-brainer. The main job of our federal government is national security. And you get the left, and I've been talking about this for weeks, where they say, no, instead of spending money on military, we need free health care or something. They say the military-industrial complex is why we're broke. Actually, no. If you want to talk about an industrial complex that's really ruining spending in this country when it comes to the government, it is the welfare industrial complex. These entitlement programs, these welfare programs. The military right now is 16% of the federal budget. 16%. There was a time, not that long ago in our history, where it was like half of our federal budget. Now it's 16%. I saw people saying, oh, we're going to war for Israel while Israel gets free health care. We could spend that money on our health care. We are already spending way more on health care through Medicare and Medicaid. Then you throw in Obamacare and other proposals in there, other programs in there. We're already spending way more than we are in the military. And yet we still have problems. The problem is priority. Priority. And with the issues, this, like I said, in a normal world where the government actually prioritizes its main job, which is national defense, which is protecting our rights, a budget like this, because if this passed, say this, and it won't, unfortunately, but say this budget passes, it still would be about a little under 4.5% of GDP. We are asking NATO countries right now, blasting NATO countries for not contributing enough to national defense. We want them to contribute 5% of their GDP. Well, shouldn't we do that too? Now, the Wall Street Journal put it well. They said Washington has for years given priority to spending to butter over guns. The result is a shrunken military industrial base that has been exposed by the wars in Iran and Ukraine. Credit then to President Trump, who is meeting the moment by proposing a new and record increase in national defense. Yeah, he should get credit. But unfortunately, he's not, because this is also a part of it. There are some cuts as well. It would include a 10% decrease in non-defense discretionary spending, money for new immigration detention centers, 13% increase in the Department of Justice funding to focus on violent criminals, $10 billion fund within the National Park Service, a 19% decrease to the Department of Agriculture, ending certain university grants, 13% decrease to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 12% decrease to the Department of Health and Human Services, $106 million cut to funding the Agency for Healthcare Research, eliminating more than $15 billion in funding from the Biden-era bipartisan infrastructure bill, and cuts to National Oceans, or the NOAA grant programs. So we need those cuts. There have been a lot of cuts to the federal workforce, which is good. But this isn't the problem. We all need to be serious about this. In order to get our budget under control, it's not about cutting military spending. It's not that we can't afford more military spending. It's that we are being choked, buried under the entitlement industrial complex, under Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And until we get serious and either grow our way out of this mess, which I don't think is possible, or we actually reform those programs like they need to be reformed, and Trump doesn't want to do it, we're going to continue with this problem. So in a sane world, Trump's budget would be passed, but we don't live in a sane world, especially when it comes to D.C. Going to speak with Caroline Dobson next here on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
The countdown is on for the 2026 NFL Draft presented by Bud Light. Catch all 7 rounds, 3 days, live from Pittsburgh, April 23rd through 25th. Watch every pick live on NFL Network, ESPN, and ABC. NFL Network is also streaming with NFL Plus. It all starts Thursday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Visit NFL.com/draft for more information. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Visit plus.nfl.com for terms.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. The transformative journeys of athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs.
Ladies and gentlemen, lights out, Sean Merriman.
I want to be the biggest and the best in what I do. And so whatever it takes, I'll get it done. In business and everything else, all I do is know how to fight and earn what I want.
My man, Malik S. What actor or comedian would you want to collaborate with? Me, Jamie Foxx, and Kevin Hart in a movie. We said it on Vernon Davis podcast, and so we'll circle back and be like, yep, here go the clip.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee Program on WVNN.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. We're back here on the Yaffee Program, trying to connect with Secretary of State candidate Caroline Dobson. It's funny, I saw her at an event yesterday in Montgomery. She said she was coming on. So hopefully we'll connect with her. I mean, she'll most likely be our next Secretary of State. So we'll see if we can make that connection. But she was supposed to come on. You know, one thing I do want to talk about, though, is going through the Alabama legislature. This whole issue when it comes to sex education. Now, I do understand that, really, historically speaking, teen pregnancies are low. They have been going down in this country for a while. Some people credit that because of sex education, because of contraception. I think it's just the availability of contraception in general is a big part of it. Doesn't even necessarily matter what you're teaching in the school. I mean, it's gonna go down then more than when there wasn't contraception. But let me read some of the details of this new law that is being passed at AL.com. It says here, a major change to Alabama's sex education passed by state lawmakers. And I know I had some of the details in my bullet points. I want to get your take as well. Maybe you think this is unnecessary. I tend to think that teaching abstinence is the right way to go. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to completely ignore the other stuff, but as you know, I was a big promoter of the success sequence, teaching that your chances of being more financially stable and having more success in life is if you do certain things in a certain order. And those things are graduate high school, go to college, or get a job, get a career, then get married, and then have kids. If you do things in that order, that is much better for you. And by the way, Walker, I'm being told that she is calling. She's going to be calling in a couple of minutes, so keep eye on the phone talking about Caroline Dobson. But this idea that we can't teach abstinence as a real option, I've just never been one who bought that. And this idea that if we don't teach it, that kids don't know about contraception and stuff, I've just never bought that either. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. I do want to get your take on it. I'll give you more details on the bill. But joining me on the show right now is Caroline Dobson. She is running for Alabama Secretary of State. Caroline, it was good to see you yesterday at the Yellowhammer event, and I'm glad you were able to come on.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations again on your new edition. That's so exciting. I know it made Easter extra special this year.
Oh, yeah, it did. Thank you. Yeah, definitely when I'm talking to everyone at the event in Montgomery yesterday, I'm just like, yeah, I have a new baby. Here's pictures. Yeah, I'm just, just usual proud dad. Or I have to tell everybody the story of that because it's pretty much dominated my life in the past. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's dominated my life in the past couple of weeks. For sure. So before we get into some of the details on different things, different policy proposals, stuff like that, I did want to just ask you, how's your campaign going?
It's going well. No, again, so grateful for people that have taken the time to open up their businesses, open up their homes, share their time with us, and get get to know me, get to know my message and my objectives for the office, and also share the ways that the Secretary of State could improve policies to make elections more secure and to make their businesses run smoothly, more efficiently, more affordably, because there are two kind of dual roles of the Secretary of State. One is to ensure election integrity, which is truly, truly fundamental to all of the freedoms that we sometimes take for granted, frankly, and having good people in office and encouraging folks to participate in our elections. And then the other aspect of the office is being over all business filings and corporate services. And it sounds like they're unrelated, but they really are unified in that, if we have elections we can trust, then that means that we have trust in our public servants, that they know that they're accountable to the people from whom their authority derives. And then if we have trust in our elections, then we can build a strong economy. Then businesses will have faith that their government leaders will respond to their needs and concerns and be motivated to help business grow, especially small business, which is that's my background. Both my parents are small business owners, now retired, and I'm a lawyer, but I'm a transactional lawyer, not the glamorous courtroom lawyer you see on TV. But I've spent my career helping with small businesses, primarily with real estate transactions, with corporate formation. And there are so many small business owners that are struggling in the state right now. So those are kind of the dual roles of Secretary of State. So it's been really fun to kind of inform. A lot of folks don't know what the Secretary of State does. So it's been kind of fun to share those roles with people throughout the state, and also to learn and listen as to how the office can better serve their needs.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, because you did say you have that background as a small business owner. Is that what made you decide to run for office? I'm always curious what makes people want to transition, because you don't have to do this. Like you said, you have a successful business. So what makes someone like you say, I'm going to take that step toward public service?
Yes, well, as some of your listeners may or may not know, I was the Republican nominee in the 2nd Congressional District 2 years ago, and that's that district that was created pursuant to Voting Rights Act litigation to basically racial gerrymander a district in favor of Democrats in this state. And so I would never been in politics, had always been interested in politics and followed politics, and had volunteered on campaigns, but had never actually run for office. And so I just think, I felt called, and I just thought and firmly believed that we could not just relinquish that seat to Democrats without a fight. So I did fight tooth and nail, was not victorious on election day, but that experience really deepened my appreciation for all that our state has to offer, and also heightened my desire to want to try to serve the state. And then that combined with my career experience, my experience growing up as the daughter of 2 small business owners, and then my career experience as an attorney counseling small businesses. On the business services side of the office, I think there's a lot we can do to streamline services, reduce fees, make it easier for small business owners to operate, less of a paper chase. So often I have clients that will reach out to me, and when I really get down to what they need me to file a form on the Secretary of State's website, but it's hard to navigate, and they don't want to end up, pushing some button they don't mean to, or filing some form they don't mean to. But this isn't something that they really need an attorney for. So now they're paying a fee that's too high already to file the form, and now they've also tacked on legal fees to do that. And so I think for a lot of small business owners, any way we can provide them relief, especially in this economy, inflation is curbing, but it's still high. And so I think a lot of folks are struggling. So that's where my heart, I'm a product of rural Alabama from a town of less than 200 people. And so, especially in our rural areas and small towns, small business owners are struggling. And yes, that is one of the reasons I felt called to run for office, was to try to do everything I could on the business services side to provide relief, and then on the election integrity side as a candidate in a highly contested general election. I witnessed firsthand where we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to election integrity. We are no doubt far better than our neighbors to the east in Georgia. And we have some great laws on the books, some of which have, just been passed in the past few years. So very grateful for that. But there's always room for improvement, and there's still so much we can do when it comes to building trust in our elections.
Well, and you wanted to make a sort of an election security task force, correct, within the Secretary of State's office?
That's right. Yes. Florida has a similar concept that they created back in 2022. It's a branch of their Secretary of State's office that they call an election crimes unit. But I would like to create an election integrity division within the Office of Secretary of State. So these are dedicated professionals, an election law expert, a cybersecurity expert. So when there is an allegation of election fraud, there's a direct chain of command. There is a branch of the office that can be reported to, and people that are standing by to immediately follow up on that claim, investigate, has there been a violation of the law, and then work with local law enforcement or work with the Attorney General's office, as the case may be, to actually apprehend and prosecute folks who try to cheat our election system. So often, people, think they've witnessed election fraud and then don't know where to report it to. They may report it to a local sheriff's office, and we have some of the finest law enforcement there is, don't get me wrong. But you can imagine a sheriff's office, especially in a rural county or in an urban county that has, a lot of fires to put out. They're dealing with, a domestic violence call, a human trafficking call, arson, theft, and they get a call about election fraud. That may not be at the top of their list to follow up on, and they may not have the expertise within their office to know what to look for. So I think having a centralized way to investigate these claims will better let the people of this state know that they can have trust in our elections, and also let people know who are, thinking about trying to pull a fast one that there's going to be someone who's going to be following up, and they will be caught and they will be punished. And fortunately now, with, for instance, making absentee ballot harvesting a felony, which what the legislative session did 2 years ago in 2024 with Senate Bill 1. These crimes are punishable. Some of them are with jail time. And so we need to make sure that the people of this state know that if you try to cheat the system, you're going to be caught and you're going to be punished, and it won't just be a slap on the wrist.
Caroline Dobson will give you an opportunity real quick to tell people where they can find out more about your campaign.
Yes. No, please check out our website. We have upcoming events. You can also request a yard sign, which we can drop off no matter where you are in the state. And we're also on social media as well. Our website is dobsonforalabama.com. And then on social media, Instagram, Truth Social, X, we're Dobson for AL.
All right, there you go. Put out a lot of information, but if you want to find out more, you can go to those places and find out more. Caroline, really appreciate you coming on, as always. I know we'll talk to you again before the election.
Well, thank you for having me, and again, enjoy the time with a new baby. That's so wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it, although there are definitely times in the middle of the night where I'm like, yeah, I want to enjoy sleep now, but that's okay. That's okay. It's part of the job.
That will come.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Good to be back with you on the Yaffee program here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. Glad to be here. Like I said, I was out last week, helping take care of the baby. I don't stay-at-home dad life, just not for me. Steffi likes being stay-at-home mom. That's fine. She can do it. I'll go to work. Totally fine. Totally fine with me. Nothing against my family. I'm just saying. Anyway, in the last segment, we spoke with Caroline Dobson, Secretary of State candidate. We were also talking about this bill that's basically been passed in the legislature, so it's waiting for Kay Ivey's signature. It's SB 209. It was sponsored by Senator Shay Shelnut. It prohibits instructors from teaching students how to obtain contraceptives or how to use them. Parents are able to opt their children out of the class without any academic consequences. So some of that is more about parental rights, which is fine. It says the Alabama House of Representatives as well passed it. It's called the Sexual Risk Avoidance instead of Comprehensive Sex Education. It says, according to the legislation, sexual risk avoidance is a primary prevention approach to sex education that seeks to achieve the most favorable health outcomes for all Alabama youth. And really the best outcome is abstinence. I know, like, we live in a culture that just doesn't want to admit that, but that's the truth. It is. We say that's unrealistic. And they say, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to have more teen pregnancies. The main reason I don't buy that argument is if you go to a Christian private school and compare the teen pregnancies at a usual Christian private school, which is not going to teach. I mean, a Christian private school, for the most part, is going to teach Christian values and abstinence. And compare teen pregnancies there to some of these public schools. And tell me where it's more of a problem. We all know that the public schools are going to have more of a problem on this issue. That tells me that the issue is not what's being taught in sex education. That the issue is not whether we're teaching about condoms or not. Most kids know about all this anyway. The issue when it comes to things like teen pregnancy, it's a cultural issue. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's a cultural issue. That if you can actually teach kids and help them understand that abstinence is the best policy, or that at least the success sequence is best, where you wait to have kids until after you're married, that it can be good for them. So I just don't buy this argument. I'm not necessarily against talking about contraceptives at all. Frankly, this kind of bans it. I'm not sure I would even go that far, I have to be honest. But as a Christian father, I'm going to teach my kids that abstinence is what's best for them. Not that it's going to be easy, but I think there is value in that. And this idea that we do that and then we just get a bunch of teen pregnancies. You don't see that at private Christian schools, which tells me that the sex education thing is not the problem. Now, the bill passed 82-16 with minimal discussion. Representative Marilyn Lance, a Democrat from Huntsville, raised concerns over the restrictions and offered an amendment that would allow access to information about contraceptive. It says, she said, I also have a concern that we're prohibiting conversations about contraceptions, but Lane's amendment failed to pass with a vote of 71-30. Representative Barbara Boyd said she thought the legislature should be spending time on other bills. Says we ought to be taking on more time doing other things as we're here spending time doing this. I understand what you are doing, but I think as a legislator, sometimes we are legislating too much. Now, I actually kind of understand that there's sometimes, yes, where they are legislating too much. But I want to focus more, instead of just on the sex education part, and we need to have parental rights. That was the important part. Allowing parents to opt out was the more important part. But we need to have at least teaching the success sequence where we tell kids that if you want a higher chance of being successful in life, you graduate high school, you either go to college and get a job, then you get married, and then you have kids. That simple sequence really increases your chances of success and financial stability and staying out of prison, whatever it is in life. So if you disagree with that, you can tell me. You can always tell me on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. It's brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Going to lighten things up, of course, in the next segment. We got What's Trending. Walker is here producing, so she's going to do What's Trending, and then I'll end the show with the Yaffee program Rewind. You are listening to the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
The Yaffee program.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pan. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
Do not ever worry about your salary. You need enough to make sure that you aren't in a bad financial position. Once you have that, your salary becomes moot. What matters from that point forward, upside gains. Any type of ownership stake or ownership potential, that's the money.
Remember, you can afford anything, just not everything. Afford anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WDNN. Glad you have joined the show. If you miss any of it live, the podcast, as you know, is up on the website anywhere podcasts are available. Walker is here today, so let's do it. We have What's Trending with Walker.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Yes, and What's Trending, as usual, brought to you by Coleman Furniture Market because, well, they always have What's Trending in furniture. By the way, you can always look at the latest stuff if you go to their Facebook page or their Instagram page. You can also find out about their latest deal, Refund Madness. They have the Refund Madness sale going on. Turn your refund into a lasting investment. Talking about your tax refund, of course. Famous brands, everyday low prices, and expert design. You can get that and more, as usual, at Coleman Furniture Market. So you can use that refund to possibly buy maybe a new bedroom set. They posted on their Facebook page a Bernhardt Sawyer upholstered bed. Looks really, really nice. My bedroom set, by the way, is from Coleman Furniture Market. You get the store-wide tax amount discount as well. So check it out. More information at ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. But better yet, see their giant showroom in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. They can deliver to anywhere in the state of Alabama. So when you go and you save some money on some furniture and upgrade your home, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, Walker, what's number 5 today?
Number 5 today, a clothing brand called Uniqlo has launched a embroidery service just for National Ramen Day week.
National Ramen Day week or Ramen week?
Well, they opened it because of National Ramen Day, but it's going to be open.
Oh, the sale is up all week.
Yes. Where?
Okay, now you sent me, I do see now, you sent me some pictures.
Yes. Customers at, there are 10 participating locations, New York, California, Florida, Texas, Boston. You can bring in any Uniqlo item and get it embroidered with cup noodles or top ramen designs for $15.
Cup noodles I know of. I've had many of those in my day. I just have to say, I don't know if you're a fan of ramen, Walker.
I love ramen.
Okay. Good. I don't really know anyone who doesn't like ramen noodles, but I'm sure you're out there. But yeah, so it offers. The picture you sent me was the fanny pack, I guess.
Yeah, fanny pack and a shirt. Yeah.
Are fanny packs a thing again? By the way, are they in?
I have seen some nice purse brands releasing fanny pack styles.
Oh, okay. All right. I did not know that. Don't think I would ever get one. Although that would be like the cliche dad thing to do, wouldn't it? If I were out with my kids, to be wearing a fanny pack.
I mean, well, now that we're talking about it, you just have to do it.
No, I don't. No, with the ramen noodle one. Of course, with
absolutely.
The embroidery. Okay. Do you put ramen noodles in the fanny pack just in case? You know?
I mean, emergency snack. For sure.
Okay. All right, so the sale's going on this week.
Yes. The first 100 customers at each store receive an embroidered designed and free cup noodles with their purchase.
All right, there you go. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. All right, what's number 4?
Number 4 today, Home Depot has released their halfway to Halloween collection.
Yeah, I see people posting about this on social media and stuff. And we're halfway to the obsession with this holiday with my generation it really is something. But go ahead.
It is limited. There's a 9-foot LED T-Rex that I love.
I wonder how much it costs. I'm looking at it. That thing is. I think I'd rather have the T-Rex than the skeleton. I have to admit. Go ahead.
The T-Rex is $399.
Yeah, see, I mean, it's cool. I don't know if it's $400 cool. I just have to. It's a skeleton. It's a T-Rex skeleton. So you keep the skeleton theme, but instead of the big human skeleton that everyone has now, you can get a T-Rex one.
Yeah,
But-
I would have expected it to be maybe $200.
Man, I just cannot justify $400 for something. One time I went into Home Depot though. I don't know if they still have it during Halloween. They had like a giant dragon that you could put in the front yard. I was like, that's cool. I'm not gonna ever spend money on it, but I like it.
Do you know their 12-foot skeleton?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing everybody has now.
Well, it's getting an upgrade. There are new
Oh.
features, including the ability to record voice lines with voice modulation on an app on your phone.
Yeah. I wonder when I'm going to have to start because, in a couple of years, Evie, my daughter, is going to want to start decorating.
Oh, I bet.
So we're going to have to do it. So I don't know. All right. What's number 3?
Number 3, Mini Brands has come out with a mini vinyl player that really works.
A mini record player that really works?
Yes. Really spins, plays music, and there are 45 vinyls that you can collect.
I wonder how it works. I'm looking. I mean, this is when you say mini, you're talking, I don't know, almost like the size of a quarter, one of these vinyl discs.
Yeah, and it is rechargeable, so it doesn't have to be plugged in all the time.
Okay, that's good, I guess. Man, we were talking about a lot of stuff that might be cool that I will never buy. I cannot justify any of these purchases.
Actually, my birthday is coming up in a month, and I messaged my dad. I was like, hey, this would be pretty cool for a birthday
Which one, the vinyl
gift.
thing?
Yes.
It seems like something Bugsy would have, too.
Probably. Go beside her Labubu's.
Yeah, it's a vinyl for her Labubu's. Exactly right. Oh, man, that's funny. Do we know what? Are they like just random bands or like is it?
It says that it's real songs from artists such as Britney Spears, The Beach Boys, Def Leppard, Amy Winehouse, Imagine Dragons, a lot of stuff. It's all Universal Music Group's licensing.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I will never get it, but you might get one for your birthday, I guess. Do we know how much they cost?
I do not know how much it costs. They did not release that information.
It's probably not $400, but I don't know. All right. What's number 2?
Number 2, there has been a new Pokemon game released by Nintendo called Pokemon Champions, and they're wanting to use this for like real gaming championships, but people are saying that there are so many missing features, performance issues, that it really just feels like a beta test.
Oh, but it's not a beta test. It's an actual game. Wow.
Yeah, it's fully released.
I wonder if they rushed it. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
And there's only 18% of the Pokemon in the game.
That seems very rushed. I don't, maybe can you get updates to it? I guess not usually, right? For a game like that?
I'd hope that they would do an update for this. I'm not sure how many they typically do. But
it just sounds like they're like they had a deadline, didn't meet the deadline, and they're like, well, just release it. We'll do an update later. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, people are saying that Pokemon Stadium 2, which ran on the Nintendo 64 in 2000, had more Pokemon and more features.
I mean, N64 was peak. Let's be honest here. That was peak.
I did really like that console.
Peak video gaming was N64. All right, what's number one?
Number one, Kanye West has been denied entry to the UK. So a whole music festival has been canceled.
Okay. I mean, yes, I'm very sad about it. Sorry, I'm very upset that people can't see Kanye West or Ye. We were talking about that with Austin yesterday, I think. Is it Ye or Ye or what is his name now?
I assume it's Ye because of Kanye.
Yeah, but are they still calling him Ye instead of Kanye, or is it back to Kanye West? You know, I feel like it's changed. It's kind of like when Puff Daddy was a thing. You know, Puff Daddy, P Diddy. I know I sound like an old curmudgeon when I'm talking about this now all of a sudden, but you know, I was like, what is it now? I have no idea.
I feel like most people probably still call him Kanye.
Probably. Are you a fan of his music?
No.
I haven't met anyone who is. I have to say, it's like everyone I talk to is like, no. Everyone knows who he is because he's, you know, crazy. But, you know, I don't.
But, yeah, they said that his presence would not be conducive to the public good.
Okay, it's kind of crazy that the UK, they can just do that. You know, they can limit freedom of speech that much and just ban a music festival, basically, because of him. That's kind of crazy. You think about it. All right, Walker, I appreciate it. Thank you. Good job today. We'll be back in a moment with the Yaffee program Rewind here on WVNN.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Final segment now of the Yaffee program right here on Newstalk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. Got a text coming in. Told me I had a hot mic over the break. I mean, you get the boring conversations we have off air where we're like, I'll do the weather update here. But also said this, the texter weighed in and said, I appreciated your talk on military spending and the threats we face. Also, your reminder for young folks' success. So on that, couple of different things I talked about on the show today. Let's just do it. It's that time of the show where we have the Yaffee program Rewind. All right. So we started. By the way, this is the time of the show where I remind you, if you miss any of it live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcasts. That's like Spotify, iHeartRadio, or the WVNN app. Make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff. So at the start of the show today, yes, we talked about the ceasefire in Iran. Obviously, the biggest news in the world today. Oil prices have already gone down. The stock market is up. So, you know, like anything else when it comes to this war, I have to be cautiously optimistic. There are some of the left saying this is Trump chickening out again. He doesn't always chicken out. He started the war to begin with, so you can't say that anymore. But no, I mean, if we can get a real ceasefire with a real deal that makes sure Iran never has a nuke, doesn't support terrorists, can't build up their military like they used to, and maybe even sets the groundwork for rising up against the regime in the future, this could be a good deal. We'll have to see, though. Like I said, you can look at both sides of this. There are some who are already praising Trump for a victory. We don't know if it's victory yet. I hope so. But if we're going to be honest here, it's wait and see. Now, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, did talk about it this morning at a press conference. Go ahead if you can, Walker. Play the Pete Hegseth cut for me.
No other president has shown the courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part.
All right, and then we have General Raisin Cain, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, weighing in as well this morning. An update on the ceasefire. Play that cut for me, Walker.
Since the beginning of major combat operations, the United States Joint Force has struck more than 13,000 targets, including in that 13,000 more than 4,000 dynamic targets that popped up on the battlefield and were immediately addressed. We welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the Joint Force remains ready, if ordered or called upon, to resume combat operations.
All right, and then we also have J.D. Vance, who hasn't talked a lot about the war until recently, I guess. But he's over in Budapest today, but he was at a press conference, was asked about this ceasefire. So play the J.D. Vance cut for me.
The Iranians have agreed to open up the straits. The United States has agreed to stop attacking. And not just the United States, but also our allies have agreed to stop attacking. Some of the people have responded favorably and have said the right things. And then you have some people on social media within their system who are basically lying about what we've accomplished militarily. What the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. As the president told me last night, the Iranians are better negotiators than they are fighters. I'm sure they don't like to hear that, but it's true. If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. What the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night.
So there you go. That is the latest on the war in Iran. We'll talk more about it throughout the week, of course, and there'll be breaking news throughout the day, I'm sure. So if you missed us talking about it earlier on in the show, the podcast is up. Then I did the Alabama bullet points, the top stories from around the state, including the fact that the Alabama lawmakers have finalized a $12.4 billion education budget package. And I gave the details of that in the bullet points. So I always post the bullet points as well on social media. So like the Yaffee Facebook page, you can see more details there. Then we had Congressman Barry Moore on. Joins me every week. He's running for the U.S. Senate. I asked him about Iran. Obviously, he supports Trump on that. He supports Trump's new budget. And that was another thing I talked about earlier on in the show, that in a sane world, Trump's budget proposal of extra military spending would just be a no-brainer. We would just do it. But we don't live in a sane world. We have the other party who wants to cut military spending because they believe the main priority of the federal government is what I'm now going to start calling the welfare industrial complex, where we must create more government welfare programs, and that's the role of the federal government. You and I know that's not true. The main role of the federal government is national security. We're spending less than 4% right now on less than 4% of GDP on defense, and about 16% of our federal budget is on defense. So all this talk that military spending is why we can't afford free health care is absurd. That's not the problem. That when you're talking about spending, and unfortunately, Republicans are too afraid to address the real problem as well, which is entitlement spending. We have to reform these entitlement programs if we're going to deal with the national debt. So we talked about that earlier. The podcast of that segment's up. We had Caroline Dobson on as well earlier. My interview with her is up. She's running for Secretary of State of Alabama. I talked about this new bill that was passed in the legislature, going to be signed by Kate Ivey, that would change how we teach sex education in the state. Some people are freaking out. I think the freak out is kind of overblown. We had What's Trending, of course, with Walker as well. All of that up on the podcast page. You can go to WVNN.com. Thanks to Walker for producing. Thanks to you for listening. And yes, I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Vince Colonnese is redefining news talk.
I'm Vince Colonnese, host of the Vince Podcast. I'm bringing you the truth beneath the headlines of all of the nation's top stories.
In-depth interviews.
We feature newsmaking interviews with the top guests on the whole planet. And I'll ask the questions you only dream of other interviewers asking.
And a front row seat to the most important conversations of the day.
It's a show with an obsessive focus on what's good for America. You are going to love Vince.
The Vince Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.